Hey, this is Edward, and I'm getting the angling right here. And welcome to the next episode of More Geek Than Gay. I know that I said that Joseph would be here. He's not, because I got the schedule all wrong. I thought he was coming home last night from helping Gini, but he's coming home today from helping with Gini. So he will be with us on the next podcast, okay? That said, let's get this puppy rolling. Welcome to More Geek Than Gay. This is Edward. Woo!
There's no need to fear. Underdog is here.
Walking, tiny white stuff.
Howdy, hey, this is Edward. I told you last time that you may get to see like a little bit of a difference in the video quality, a little bit of difference in the sound quality. Well, this is next time. This is that difference because I am trying something new. One of the nice things about this one is because I'm using a pad this time, and it makes it so that I can actually see what's going on instead of just guessing like I have to do when we use the camera. So that's nice. Also, I got a timer right there. So, woohoo! It made it weird to set up, but that's all the technical aspects of what we're going to be talking about right now. And that didn't give me any more light, so hey. Anyway, hi! I'm Edward. Welcome to the next installment of More Geek Than Gay. And you can see I'm again here by myself. Why? Because I apparently do not understand how schedules work. And Joseph is not home until later today. But if I waited, then this podcast would be late, like others have been late. You know what I mean? So that's why I am actually going to just go ahead, do this one, and when he gets back, we will have another podcast, on Thursday, on normal time, to cover his stuff. Okay, those of you who are listening don't understand this, but I'm like watching and I look so short. But really, I'm like going, I look like I'm reaching up for the cabinets. But I don't know if there's any way to adjust that. I don't think there is. So, anyway, hi! It has been a busy weekend of sorts. What's weird is I can't think of what I did this weekend. Can't think of anything significant that I did this weekend. We did a lot of cleaning while Joseph was gone, so that Joseph doesn't have to come home to a dirty house. We made we made a crab leg dinner while Joseph was gone because he was posting pictures of all his special treats that he was having with Gini. So we decided, hey, we want special treats, and so we had crab legs. The roommate, who dare not mention his name, he has actually never had crab legs before, So that was a whole new experience for him. And I'm trying to be nice Doobie and teach him, okay, so we didn't have the little plier things, but they're crab legs. A lot of times you can just manhandle those things, and not even with a lot of manhandling. You know, these were not those big, hard, like, you're gonna club you upside the head with my crab legs. No, these were normal crab legs. And therefore, even if you did have the little plier things, they probably would have been almost useless because of how the pliers, you know, the legs are a little flexible. So that's when you get down and dirty and you use your hands and you break them apart with your hands, which I am sure that all of you are aware of, but he was not so much. And trying to... So I'm teaching him about, like, okay, you can break it at the joint, and that will, and then if you pull, it'll pull out the little stringy things, and it's like, I'm showing him, pulls right out. He goes, little stringy things are left behind. I'm like, how the heck did that happen? So then it's like, okay, so now you take the leg, and you crack it in half. Your goal is to break the shell, but not the meat. Well, first he was breaking everything, so that was no help. It's like he still had to dig it out with a fork. And then he got to where then it just got weird for a little while. But eventually he got the hang of it. At first I thought, okay, this is not going to be a positive crab experience for him. But he enjoyed it very much, I think. So, yay. And that was our adventure of sorts during the weekend. Joseph, on the other hand, had, like, entirely different adventures. Adventures with Genie, adventures with Dart Team, you know, or Dart League. So, wow. Did watch two little movies, well, just yesterday, actually. And that is, the first one, and neither one of these are new, so don't be expecting, like, oh my god, he's got a review of the latest movie. No, oh my god, he doesn't have a review of the latest movie. He's got a review of a movie that's a couple years old. Oh my god, why is he talking like a big mess? I don't know. So, first one was Hotel Transylvania. I am not an Adam Sandler fan. I am very far from being an Adam Sandler fan. I do not care for Adam Sandler at all. I found, and I never remembered the name of this one. It's either Happy Gilmore or Billy Madison. I think it's Happy Gilmore. The one where he's a golf player. I find that one watchable. And that's pretty much it. And he plays pretty much the exact same character in every movie. And therefore, if you're not going to find him funny or interesting in one movie, you're pretty much guaranteed. Oh, actually, I kind of like Little Nicky, which is a horrible, horrible movie, and it's a horrible confession to like. But it's like one of the only movies where he plays something slightly different. And I don't know, I just kind of like that movie. Hotel Transylvania, he is playing Dracula, who has opened up a hotel, and he has a daughter. And part of the reason why he opens up the hotel is because he wants to keep his daughter away from people, because people are dangerous. And so as long as he has the hotel, he can kind of keep her there and wait for her zing, which is what the monsters have for when they fall in love, is they have a zing. And, you know, just a nice little father-daughter moment like that. She doesn't know that that's the reason. So, you know, she actually thinks that people are absolutely horrible, which, you know, I hate people, so I don't argue with that. But, lo and behold, eventually, a person accidentally ends up at this hotel, and hilarity ensues. Oh, the hijinks. And as Dracula ends up having to first try to kick him out, and then have to try to convince the other monsters that he's a monster, and still try to kick him out because humans can't be here, blah 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 blah. Which, that's a whole issue too. So, a lot of celebrity voices pop up. We've got, oh, what's her face, who was taking that teen kid for a while as the voice of Dracula's daughter, Mavis. You'd think I would remember her name, because I want to say Penelope Cruz, and I don't believe that's the right name. But she's the one that kept on getting all that hate mail after he broke up with his girlfriend, and then they ended up going out. And she really didn't deserve any hate mail. It's weird. So she's the voice of Dracula's daughter, and we've got Fran Drescher as Mrs. Frankenstein, and John Lovitz as the chef, Quasimodo, and there's a whole bunch of celebrity voices if you're paying attention. What do I think of this movie? Surprisingly, it was entertaining. It was produced by Jendy Tendikovsky. As if you can not tell, this is first thing in the morning and I still have yet to have my breakfast, so hey, look at that, my mouth doesn't work correctly. But this is the guy, it's either the guy who brought us Powerpuff Girls, or it's the guy who brought us Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Either way, incredible talent behind this. I believe it's the Powerpuff Girls guy. So, and you know what, maybe that's one and the same guy. I don't know. You'd think I'd keep up on this, but I don't keep up on this when I first wake up. That's really what it comes down to. I'm still too tired to be, keeping up on this. Because I just came straight in here to do this for you guys. That's how much I care. But, now, I did not see him as scriptwriting talent. I believe Adam Sandler actually is part of the scriptwriting team. But he was involved with the production, and I think that's part of the reason why we're looking at a better cartoon than what I anticipated it being. Also, I mean, maybe it was Adam Sandler deciding he wants to explore new things, and he knows that if you see him on screen, people are going to expect the same old Adam Sandler. And so, as a voiceover artist, he feels he can do other. Maybe. That could very well be the case. So, it wasn't perfect. There's a big chunk where it starts to kind of drag for me. I think it was recorded in 3D, and maybe during those points it looks better on a big screen in 3D than it does on a little screen in not 3D. But still was entertaining. I personally, in the end credits, you get to see non-CG computer animation or flat animation. It may still be like Flash or something like that, but it's flat, and it made me go, you know what? This would actually maybe be a cute little cartoon too. So it's been now long enough that we're probably never going to see a cartoon out of it, but I would watch it. I'd watch a cartoon of it. And I almost have my breakfast ready to start warming up, so I'm almost fully with you here. I also watched Creatures from the Pink Lagoon. Woo! Which is exactly as campy and silly as it sounds like it should be. And that's part of what made it work. It is... It is a horror story, or a horror movie, filmed in glorious black and white, except for those moments when it's filmed in glorious pink and white. And it involves a group of guys getting together for a birthday party, and meanwhile, while they're getting together for this birthday party, unbeknownst to them, people are getting infected with the East End virus, or West End virus, that is being transmitted by these mosquitoes that happen to be next to a chemical plant, next to a rest stop where a lot of gentlemen stop to rest. Oops, I dropped my lighter. Could you help me find it? It's dark. You may have to reach around a lot. Ta-da! So, a lot of little bits like that. These are guys who have actually seen those old movies, so they kind of had, they had a lot of those old B-movie scenes, and that was kind of fun. Then, the actors were all pretty good. You had the bitchy one. You had the very Nelly Queen with the trade boyfriend. The Nelly Queen ends up being like my favorite character in the whole thing. Cannot remember. I want to say his name was Philip. But there's a moment where things are falling apart and like, oh my God, there's zombies. Ah! Oh my God, they're coming our way. Ah! He's just screaming at everything, and it's actually really, really funny. I would very much recommend this movie. It is mostly safe for family consumption. There are sexual situations that are introduced, there's one that's kind of almost seen, but not really seen, that may be difficult to explain to youngsters. So you might want to take that into consideration, because that's the trick, is you'd have to explain these situations since they're not spelled out 100%, because they did a nice little job of not doing that. But, you know, during the whole looking for the lighter scene, and then, you know, a kid might be wondering, why is this scene here? This is boring, or something like that. And it becomes kind of a recurring joke. Yeah, there's that. And also, you might want to explain to your kids why there's two men kissing. Because, you know, two men kiss quite often in this movie. So, I still give it a hearty thumbs up. Archie, the roommate that dare not speak his name. Ooh. At first I didn't think he was going to get into it, but he actually was having fun with it. He's not a black and white horror movie fan, especially older B-grade movies, which is what this was definitely imitating. But there even came a point when he was watching it and he's like going, you know, these guys must have had so much fun making this movie. And it looks like they did. It looks like they had fun. Thank you, Patrick of ScreamQueenz, for recommending this one. This is a fun little movie. I will be right back because I gotta go check something with the bird. You've been hearing him in the background. I need to go make sure he has water. Selena Gomez. That's her name. Selena Gomez. And the bird's fine. And he's just complaining because he can hear me talking and I'm not talking directly to him, and birds are that way, especially, well, hookbill parrots. Anyone who's ever had one. They're actually kind of flock birds, so we're his flock, and he wants to know why he's not being included in what the flock is doing. Yeah. They are sometimes, in some ways, you could consider them somewhat high maintenance. So, that, dear friends, is my thoughts on these two movies that I just saw. And also an explanation about all the bird noises you're hearing in the background. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to start hitting you with my con experience. I'm going to try to just remember it and go in chronological order. And then when Joseph gets back, he will tell you his, and I am sure I will be adding little bits and pieces here and there because he will remember things that I did not remember. That's how our little symbiotic relationship works. So my con experience did not really begin until Friday. Thursday was the first day. I had taken it off from work. I went there, kind of hung out for a little while. Joseph really had to do most of the working. I just got to kind of hang out, go see people, stuff like that. Thursday was really my one relaxed day. Then Friday hit and went to the morning meeting. It was a morning meeting. We had a moderators meeting. That's what we do. That's what happens when you're part of the moderation team is you get to go to meetings. Then after that, it was like I think I had a brief respite of time before I had to go to my first panel, which was and I'm gonna mind my language this time because I will. That was the Andy Kubert School, Andy Kubert presenting the Kubert School of Comic Book Art and Graphic Arts panel, which probably had a much nicer, concise title than what I just said. But, now they pretty much didn't need me. I kind of just sat there. They even, I think, kept track of the time. They had this guy named Lloyd, who I was waiting to hear his last name. He didn't give me a last name, so as I'm like trying to introduce them, I'm like going, because I'm like going, did I not catch his last name? It just seems weird to call him, here's Andy Kubert and his sidekick Lloyd, but Lloyd was very good at presenting. He actually was one of the students at the school. Andy talked about it. They talked about the school. They talked mainly about the school. Actually, there was very little talk about Andy and his career, which was surprising, but also kind of nice to see that people were willing, that the people there were very interested in the topic that he was presenting, which was the Andy Kubert School, or not Andy, the Joe Kubert School, because Joe Kubert, his father, the legend, and I told him that he said he enjoyed it. Very much enjoyed the crowds, enjoyed the turnout. My neck looks blue or something. He enjoyed the crowds. It was a very fun, and I'm hoping that maybe he'll be back again next year. I told him that what he really needs to do is he needs to open up like a West Coast division of the school, so it'd be a little bit less of a schlep, and therefore he could, get more students. And he told me that he and his brother, if they opened up a school anywhere else, they'd probably just move because they hate being in Jersey. But everybody I know who's from Jersey, not everybody, but most people I know who are from Jersey say they hate Jersey, when actually they love every minute of Jersey, and they miss it once they leave. So it's one of those things. Then, after that, I had, I think, a little bit of downtime, went over, visited with Joseph for a little while, but before I knew it, it was time to start going with panel after panel after panel after panel. My first one of these panels, I really wish I could remember, because this is the day I had the 6 panels and I can only remember 4 of them. There was the Andy Kubert one. Then, hold that thought for just 1 minute. Ta-da! That's me waving around my schedule. So I can now remember what I had to do. Let's see, do I have all of them there? How did I have 6 that day and I only show 5? I swear I had 6. Maybe I only had 5. Seemed like 6. Anyway, my next one was the miniature Star Wars world. How the miniature Star Wars world was created, and that was with Fon Davis. Now, Fon Davis is a miniature special effects artist dude. He has worked with, what is it, Industrial Lights Magic, or Lights and Magic, or something like that. The George Lucas company. He has worked on now all of the Star Wars movies. He worked on chapters 1, 2, and 3, and then when they redid and remastered 4, 5, and 6, he worked on those. He pointed out that actually most of the special effects in those movies still was done with miniatures, not with CGI. He's worked on, oh good lord, he worked on everything. I don't have his bio here with me at all. So, he has worked, you think, but I believe he worked on like the Star Trek movies as well. He had, what was the one that he worked on that had underwater scenes? Because they showed us how to make the underwater scenes. But basically he's worked on a little bit of everything. He worked on Independence Day. That was one that came out. Very entertaining. That was actually a really fun program. He basically, I just sat there pointing and directing questions to him. It was interesting to find out how many special effects are just happy accidents, such as in Chapter 1 of Star Wars. It's not A New Hope. It's, I don't know. It's the annoying one where we meet Jar Jar Binks and the kid. But in that one, there's the big race scene, and there's supposed to be like all these spectators in the stands and everything. What they did is, for the miniatures, each person in the stands is actually a colored Q-tip or cotton swab, and they put them there. They expected to try to for making movement, so it looked like there was actually people moving in the stands, to have a fan nearby that gently did a breeze to do it. But since they were filming in the desert, the residual heat actually created ambient waves, and they didn't need to do anything. It just created the wave look and made them look like they were moving anyway. So there were things like that. Also found out that a lot of those big explosions that you see in movies actually are pop! And then they slow that down. Slow it down, so that this pop of an explosion, you get to actually see pop, 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 and then they add special effects. And he said that the first time he experienced that, he was like going, I don't think this worked because all we got was a pop, and they're like, nah, it's okay. Well, how are we going to know? Well, we won't know until it's finished being developed. And then we go back and look at it. Which, that must be maddening. A lot of special effects seem to be just a matter of doing what you can, and then just trusting that it's going to come out okay. And hoping for fortuitous accidents. Yeah. So, he was very entertaining. If you ever get a chance, I wanted to go to his other panels, even though I never really thought of myself as having much of an interest in miniature special effects. I read Starlog magazine, but I typically skipped over those articles in Starlog. But he actually made it very interesting. So if you ever have a chance to see him, I do believe that he's going to be at San Diego Comic-Con. I thought I saw that he was going to be there. He'll probably be there with a big dinosaur head, because he is, or he was there with us with a big dinosaur head. And his name's Fon Davis. Go see him. Entertaining panels. After that, Building Better Sci-Fi. This was a panel with a whole bunch of scientists talking about the things that are really annoying them with sci-fi. we discussed movies that they thought got it right, and movies that they thought didn't get it right. I have those written down on my actually individual panel notes. So, arg. But there were movies that they liked. And they didn't have the absolute haterade for Gravity that people said, but they also didn't have the absolute love for Gravity, as one of them went through very detailed explanation as to why, wow, that just couldn't happen. And it wasn't a problem with free fall or anything like that. It was a problem with the trajectories of all those satellites that she's going to never intersect the way that they show them in the movie, and it would take, she would use up all of her fuel just trying to hop from one to the next. Well, actually, to try to get to where she could hop to the next. So there were things like that they had issues with, and really their big issue was, for the most part, surprisingly, was they didn't mind when when science fiction made up rules. They just wanted, okay, you made up a rule. Okay, we can travel faster than the speed of light here. That's great. Now, let's be consistent with that and make it make sense across everything else that you're doing. Don't just introduce that because you're lazy. Introduce that because you're going to make it work. They also had issues with the portrayal of scientists, so that was one of those things. I actually became their default mathematics guy, because I am still a recovering mathematics major, and they're all scientists. I shared their pain. There are moments when in math shows, or when mathematics comes up, that I go, that's not how math works. Has anyone ever actually told you how math works? Because that's not it. They, like, as one of their things that they brought up as a good portrayal of scientists or whatever, because they're like going, we actually are well-rounded people. We play sports, we do more than just science and move a plot along. We're actually fully interesting people ourselves. And I'm like going, well, I was a math major. I can't fully say the same thing about mathematicians. But they said that they enjoyed the TV show Numbers for that. And while I very much enjoyed the TV show Numbers actually had one of my issues, and that is how there's this guy who's a mathematician. I don't care how brilliant of a mathematician he is. He was an expert in areas of mathematics that, well, basically, if an area of mathematics reared its ugly head, he was an expert in it. There is no such thing as a mathematician that does this. Especially once you start becoming one of the higher level ones, you may be outstanding in the field of topology or whatever. That does not mean that you're going to understand all the intricacies of, like, matrices and stuff like that. Well, you probably would. Matrices aren't super complicated, but they do become complicated. But basically, there's a whole bunch of... the more you excel, the more specialized you become, and the less you'll know about other specialties, because you don't have time. And so it always bothered me how, like, in every episode, he knew every branch of mathematics that ever existed. So, the moment they said Numbers, my eyes rolled back in my head a little bit. I'm like, oh, and they're like, well, for the depiction of the person. I go, oh, okay. Although, actually, I've never met a mathematician that was even close to that well-rounded. Kidding. Love you, Danica. So, that was actually a very fun panel. I actually got to have 2 science panels this year. So, and this one, I actually even got to contribute a little bit on my own, where, like, one of the people in the audience was saying, so you really want these writers to be focusing on science to make it enjoyable for you, when actually me, as someone who's not a scientist, doesn't care, and it's not going to do anything, suddenly you're having to make a movie for you and not for me. And they inserted that, no, I want them to include this stuff and, make a movie for everybody. And that's when I pointed out that, to be honest, you can insert the science without actually bogging down everybody else's whole thing, because you can do it in a way that is just part of the story, and if you don't know the science involved, then you'll just move along with the story, because that's what it is. It's just, if you do, you'll appreciate it. Such as in the movie, or in the book, House of Leaves, which, what a pretentious piece of crap that is, although the main story is really nice. It's everything else that's bogged down with it is a pretentious piece of crap. But there's a moment in there when they give these dimensions of the house being bigger on the inside than it is on the outside, and it's causing internal measurements to not match up with the external measurements. And it becomes a very basic trigonometry, or actually not even trigonometry, it becomes a basic geometry question. But since they gave the numbers, and I'm like going, really? I had to quickly crunch the numbers. It worked out right, and that made me actually much happier to know that, oh, they did get their numbers right. They put that extra effort in to do something right, mathematically, that virtually everybody else who reads the book is just going to go straight through it and not even notice that. That's something that only a math geek would care about. But it worked for the math geek, and no one else would even notice it. So that was a very fun panel, and that was the beginning of my very interesting set on Friday night, where, and I even explained this to one of the panelists, I went from building better sci-fi to the dark truth about exorcisms versus exorcisms in movies, to evening erotica. Ta-da! So, we do the dark truth about, or we do building better sci-fi. I go over to the dark truth of exorcisms versus exorcisms in movies. And I will be honest, at this moment, I'm still not comfortable talking about that one. Not because it's exorcisms. That should have made it a very interesting and oh-so-talkable panel. No, it's because anybody who knows me, anybody who actually got to see the panel, get to see the notes she made pamphlets, knows that it was all that I could do to not have my head explode during that panel. And it feels weird to badmouth one of the panelists. She was actually quite charming, but there was even, and it surprised me that no one in the audience really seemed to be trolling her at all, given how quickly and easily it would have been to do. There was only one person that I think possibly was trolling her, and even then I couldn't tell for sure. But I tried my hardest to just keep my mouth shut and point at people and get to the next person in line, as far as questions go. That was a very popular panel, filled up the room mostly. They may ask her back. If they do, I am sure she does not want me back as her moderator, even though I'm not at this moment speaking anything about it. At the same time, I am making it clear that I don't, yeah. So, that was that one. And I'm not even going to say her name. Okay, if you want to know who it is I'm talking about, you're going to have to do that extra bit of footwork, because, like I said, I feel a little weird. I feel like I should comment about it, because I feel very strongly about how that panel went. And if you meet me in person, I am more than willing to tell you point blank, this is what happened, oh my god. But it's just putting it out there in a public forum like this is where I'm kind of like going, I will politely draw a line. Yes. So, that was that panel. Then it was time for me to rush back to another building, because I'm just rushing back and forth between buildings now, to the evening erotica panel. Woo! Talking dirty with Gini and Jordan. That's what I always refer to this as. This is basically where we get together and Gini Koch and Jordan Summers, who I call Jordan Sparks, Gini and Jordan both write sci-fi fantasy, and both of them have stories where they have included romantic, erotic passages. Okay? And therefore they do this panel about erotica. Yay, erotica! When they do, though, typically there's like a little speech about a V and about the discovery and the voyage and da-da-da-da, and then 5 minutes, after that's done in 5 minutes, then they move on to the entertainment part of the panel, which is the euphemism game, where it is up to the audience to come up with different ways of describing different things, like body parts or certain acts, things like that. And then they get judged on whether or not those are good answers or not. And if it's a good answer, you get a prize. And they're looking for things that are not too poetic and pretty, and they're looking for things that possibly still kind of sound sexy. Okay? So, like, 1 year the question was a name for breasts, and someone described them as flapjacks. Well, that wasn't pretty, but it wasn't sexy either. No prize for you, flapjack man. This panel did actually have one of my highlights. We actually had people who wanted to discuss erotica, which kind of threw, in the long run, ended up throwing a little bit of a bump into this panel, because, like I said, typically this panel goes straight into the euphemism game. But this year we had people who were kind of wanting to maybe just learn more about erotica. They had fun with the euphemism game. And we made sure that they knew where Gini and Jordan were so that they could discuss erotica in more depth if they wanted to. But we didn't really do a lot of discussion about erotica. And so I am kind of curious about how this is going to play out for next year's panel, since there was a little bit of call for it, but at the same time, traditionally this panel's focus has been on the euphemism game. We had a couple furries in the back. I'm going to call them furries. They may have just been cosplayers playing characters that I don't know. One was dressed as a lynx, and one was dressed as like a blue and green or aqua fox ears and stuff. I don't know. If you know what these if you know of these as characters, please let me know, because I don't know if those as characters. I just think that they were dressed up as anthropomorphic animals, and that was perfectly fine. At cons, especially sci-fi cons, comic book conventions and everything, a lot of times you will run into furries there. There are people who just enjoy dressing up as in animal costumes and stuff like that. They're the source of much humor for people, and I decided long ago that it's a cheap joke to make fun of furries. They're harmless, they're not doing anything, they're having fun in one of the most harmless ways possible. So, you know what? Go for it, furry. I personally think, especially in Phoenix, it sounds like a sweltering, horrible thing to do, but that's just me. That's not you. So go for it, furry. And by the way, I loved our two furries in the back here, who they even later said, one of them used a word that I'm like, wait, that's a furry word. I think you're furries and not just cosplayers. But that's the reason why the furries come out, because the cosplayers come out, and people, like, they can walk around with no judgments. People are not going to throw unfair judgments towards them for being furries, and that's great. There's furry conventions and everything. If you ever meet a furry, like I said, they're actually great. They're just into something you're not into. There you go. But the subject was to come up with another word for, or a description, a euphemism for fellatio. Yes, fellatio was the subject. And you know, people are tossing out their things here and there, and we're like, okay, whatever. You know, this audience was so poetic and so nice with their descriptions. We're like going, that's nice. That's more Harlequin romance. Can we like raunch it up just a little bit? And in the back, I'm seeing these furries, and one of them is like holding the other one's hands down and like shaking its head, and like I can tell that the aqua one is trying to keep the lynx one from saying something. And that's when I'm like, oh, well, guess who's going to be answering the next question? So I'm like going, okay, I know that we have other people who have that, but over there in the corner, I see someone who has an answer, who's being kind of restrained from giving an answer, and I want to hear what he has. Or she. It's a furry. I don't know. It ended up being a he. So, call over there. The subject was fellatio. And that's a cat, by the way. And the answer that he gave was a euphemism for fellatio: feeding the homeless. And suddenly we understood why the other one was just shaking her head. And suddenly there was a lynx with a prize in his hand, and possibly quickly became my favorite group in this panel, or in the audience that night. Ran into them the next day. I'm like, hey, it's my buds! But I had to run to a panel. We were going to get a picture taken together. I couldn't get the picture taken at that moment. And I can't find them. I found a picture of them on the official website for Phoenix ComiCon, but I can't find them. I really wanted to see them so I could get a picture taken with them, and like I said, they were really cool. Loved them. Although one of them tried to pass off yiffing, and while Gini and Jordan are like going, yiffing? I'm like going, oh, no, that's not even a euphemism. That's just what it's called. So, that you don't get a prize for yiffing. So, and if you don't know what yiffing is, you're not a furry. That's really the answer to that. Just be happy that they didn't say vor. And do not Google search vor. Do not Google search vor fanfiction or vor fan pictures or anything like that. Don't do that. I highly recommend not to do that. So, that was day 2. Or day 1, for me, actually. And the erotica panel almost always runs about 2 hours. Gini was pooped at this time. Jordan was done, everything. So everyone was tired from the first day. The first day was exhausting. But that led us to Saturday, which was also going to be a long day, because Saturday is always the busiest day. That's when everybody wants to be there, and all the celebrities are there, and alright, yay! So Saturday, had the morning meeting, and then it was time for me to go straight into Star Wars, Star Trek, and the Terminator all had it. That's the name of the panel. You have to read the description to have an idea of what it's about. Whether it's the motivating factor in your hero's journey or a distraction to take them off course, our panelists discuss how to best make romance work in your genre fiction. So that's when I'm going, oh, this is romance and genre. Okay, that explains why it's pretty much the exact same lineup of panelists that I had the year prior when we had a romance and genre fiction panel. So Gini was there, Jordan was there, had Delilah Dawson, got to be on another one of her panels, yay, and Leanna Renee Heber, please let me get her name right. She was there, I met her last year, again, same panel that we had last year, and then Erin Quinn was supposed to be there. Unfortunately, she was sick. I was very disappointed because I've actually read... She seems to be more of the definite romance end of it, but I read one of her short novellas or whatever, and I really liked it. And it didn't seem to be just super bogged down in romance. Matter of fact, the romance actually seemed background to the story. I have been told that her other stories are more romance focused, but the fact that I enjoyed this one, I enjoyed the ideas, She has this whole series of stories and books that are like the shadow world, shadow men, shadow people. This one, it was a woman with a shadow, and the shadows come to life. Okay? And I recommend going and checking it out. I would check out the short stuff first, just to give it a shot, see what you think. She has at least one short one, so go ahead, check that out. But I unfortunately did not get a chance to meet her. Curses. But that was a very fun panel because these are very fun ladies. I enjoy hanging out with these ladies. They are a delight. If you ever get to go to a con, go up and say hi to any one of them. They are just a lot of fun. So, and get their books. They're also very talented writers. A very diverse group of writers in a weird way. So that was how I started my day, and then I had hours of nothing to do. Hours of nothing to do. Gini took me to one of her panels, I believe, or was that the day before when I suddenly... yeah, Gini took me to one of her panels about writing humor, and somewhere I have a recording of that. I'll have to try to dig out what... Unfortunately, the lighting in there, while it looks good when you're sitting in the audience, when you tried recording, all you got was lens flare. And I just really didn't want to look like one of the new Star Trek movies, and that's a comment I don't think it's going to be included as any part of the podcast, that bit of video, because all you got to see was glowing points of light talking about humor. It was really weird. So then we got to Adventures in Science. Got my scientists back again. Got to learn a lot about the Mars Project and how one guy, a lot of his adventures in science end up with, the story ends with, and I almost died. So that was interesting, how many stories ended with, and I almost died. And so, and there was a generator that tried to kill him, and we had to find out, how does a generator try to kill you? And if I recall correctly, by blowing up. So... And then there were people who were washing out big bins of stuff that contained sodium in it. Sodium is a highly reactive element with water, and it's explosively reactive with water. And so they're having to clean out, after an experiment, they're having to clean out these bins with the sodium, and they're using the hose. It's like, what the hell? And so, he was expecting to die that day too. So that was very fun. There were supposed to be 6 panelists. I only got 3 there that day. So that was sad. But very entertaining panel. Then after that, it was what I keep referring to as my cooking panel, which was Comic Cornucopia, Culinary Life Skills in Comics. This is another one I don't really feel comfortable talking about, not because of any really disagreement, but just because it felt like they came up with a good idea for a panel, but they weren't sure how they were going to go about it. And so, to be fair, I want to leave this wide open, see what they do next year, because I do think that there actually is a really good panel in here. But I think it also was just very confusing. It was the smallest panel, but I think a lot of people just really didn't know what to expect with Comic Cornucopia, Culinary Life Skills in Comics. I think a better description would help, so people would have an idea of what they were going to. Talked about tea ceremonies in comic books, and how to use comic books to help introduce kids into the idea of different foods, different preparation techniques, stuff like that. So, and different cultures and how they treat food. So there was like I said, something definitely there. It just didn't gel quite right, and I think it's because this is the first time they've ever done it, and I want to see them do it next year. Okay. After that, it was PC horror gaming. I don't do electronic gaming. I don't do it, okay? I am so old school when it comes to RPGs, and people are like going, oh, World of Warcraft, or EverQuest, and I don't think people do EverQuest anymore, so. But when people talk about that stuff, I'm all like going, Dungeons and Dragons and not online, but like I roll my dice and mark up my character sheet. So this was actually a very fun panel, though. They really didn't need me as anything other than head usher and adult. So I just basically laid out the rules, made sure people weren't standing around. The place was packed, so anytime anyone wanted to come in, I was keeping track of, we had 2 people leave that seat, I can now have 2 people come on in if they want to come in, and they always wanted to come in. So, and basically it was just them playing video games. Yeah, it was watching them play these horror video games, very entertaining. Especially listening to the guy narrate his thing, because he seemed to be scared to death of any sort of horror game. It was hilarious. That was pretty much the end of my day 2. During day 2, for me, Saturday, did also see a guy walking around in what I kept on referring to as the Hot Venom costume. It was a rubber costume it was the Venom thing, and it was just rubber. And I know, or if it wasn't rubber, it was very rubber like vinyl. And I know that stuff can hold together a shape and all that, but at the same time, there's only so much that it can do if it doesn't have the base materials, and there were some base materials underneath there. And no one else saw him. No one saw him. Okay? I only saw him because as I was walking by, I heard someone say, "Good costume," and I turned around and I looked, and there was this guy in this good costume. And holy hot Venom, Batman. And when he turned around and kept on walking, I'm like going, wow. So I went and got my camera, and then I couldn't find him, of course. And I really wanted to take a picture of him so people would see, no, really, the hot Venom existed. And I wanted to also like have a pencil around or whatever so I could drop it and go, oh crap, I dropped my pencil. Could you pick that up for me? Take a picture of that too, because wow, it was doing good from all angles. Wow, it was doing good from all angles. I think maybe Hot Venom guy was the same guy who on Sunday we got to see doing Body Paint Colossus. And Body Paint Colossus looked good too. That was actually one of the better body paint jobs I've ever seen from someone who clearly was not a professional. So it wasn't a professional job, but it looked really good. And it was head to toe body paint. There was also a body paint Avatar dude who was blue all over, and everybody loved him. And yeah, he was good. I don't care about Avatar. Or not, was it Avatar? That horrible movie? Yeah, Avatar. I think that was the name of that horrible movie. So I just didn't care because I don't care about Avatar. I did get to see 3 guys dressed up as the 3 dark judges from Judge Dredd. And I actually did kind of squee a little bit about that. That was kind of cool. Yeah, I made sure to get a picture of them. So, not sure where you're going to see these pictures. I'll probably put them up on the Facebook page eventually. That'll probably be it. I might put them up on the Twitter feed. Link them across. But they're probably not going to be directly on the podcast. They're probably going to be peripherally in the side stuff. I might... I have those notes that the Exorcist gave that I really would like to share with people so that you can learn how to spell the word Tretz. Because she is a trained psychiatrist, as is the gentleman that she works with. And psychiatric evaluations are very important for exorcism. I'm talking more about that than I really want to because I am running dangerously close to going and having the talk that I don't want to have on a public forum. So stop me! Stop me from talking about her. So Sunday comes. Another morning meeting. Everybody's tired. Everybody's tired. Oh my god, everybody's tired. Then it's time for me to go to Kaiju Rising. Gini Koch again. This time with Edward Erdelak and Mike McLean. They have all written stories for this anthology title called Kaiju Rising, which is basically about Daikaiju. Giant monsters in general. From what I can read, I didn't see anything that wasn't Daikaiju. And so it's giant monsters, and just everybody has a very interesting spin on that. The art, one of the main artists was there, Robert Eldrod. You heard me talk about this panel in the last podcast. This was a very fun panel. This was a very fun little panel. Like I said, I had to kind of shoehorn in back to us getting like a quick sharp right to get us back into talking about the book towards the end, because I wanted to make sure people knew, no, these people have a book. You want to go buy the book. I'm glad that we all enjoy kaiju. Now go buy the book and you'll enjoy their kaiju. And yay! It's available as an ebook right now, so go buy it. I know they said that the hard copy is not available yet, and they're very disappointed in that. That's fine. Go buy the ebook. That's how I was reading this stuff already, and I knew what was in the book because I read the e-copy. Okay, it's on Amazon. I'm sure it's on Barnes & Noble as well. Go get it. Then it was a little bit of time went on, and then it was time for me to go to the Stan Lee Spotlight. I was just a line mod there. Line mod is the least glamorous job, and everyone keeps on going, oh, but you get to go to the panel. And I go, well, yeah, I get to go to the panel, but I don't get to interact with anything. Because I'm just standing there helping other people interact. I don't get to say hi to Stan. I don't get to be in the audience and possibly ask a question to Stan. No, I am definitely not. I am the one person that is, or actually two people, because there's another line mod. We are the two people that are going to have no interaction whatsoever with Stan. And I understand that, you know, as a moderator, it's not my job to have interaction. But at the same time, don't be thinking that it's a great job. That, like, oh my god, you're guaranteed to get into this panel that, you know, it may sell out. Or not sell out, but fill up. Well, it may. It doesn't affect me at all. So, catfight, hold on. Stop that! I don't know what just happened there. Oh, it hit an hour. It turns off at an hour. I get it. So, I now get, this is the first time I've used this one. So, and I tested out a little bit, but I didn't actually run it for an hour. So, but he and I don't hate the Sixth Doctor like a lot of people do. And I don't think he realizes that I've actually seen him. I saw him on a Star Trek panel last year where they were talking about the women in Star Trek. And he and I talked after that panel and how, like, Star Trek really does portray women in medicine a lot, or in the sciences a lot. And then we also talked, I saw him, I believe, before I started moderating. I think he was on a Doctor Who panel with Chris Swanson and Robert. So, I can't remember Robert's last name right now. And that he's probably happy about that because he's quiet. He's a delicate little flower. Aww. But yeah, this guy's name's Zeke, and I think he was on one of their panels too. So he gets around. And apparently I can be not super memorable. Yeah. Go figure. So that pretty much runs you through just a structural, scheduled rundown of me at the con. That's really what it was. I did go to another panel. The poor panelist, she had, I was like trying to figure out, or the moderator, I'm like going, what's wrong? Why is this moderator like sitting down, and why does she look distracted, and what's wrong here? She's a better moderator than this. And then I started focusing and realized that no, there's something wrong. She's like in pain or nauseous or something, nauseated or something. And that's when I'm starting to talk to her, and we're like mouthing back and forth to each other across the room. And she's like going, I broke my toe. She broke her toe. And she's up there moderating. And I'm going, oh my God, do you need me to go up there and cover for you? You know, and she's like going, no, it's just... By the time I figured out what was going on, I showed up late to the panel anyway. Okay, it was already pretty much halfway done by the time I got there. And by the time we covered this whole idea of like, oh my god, you have a broken toe, do you need me to cover for you? There was only about like 10-15 minutes left of the panel anyway. So she decided to stick it out, but I still moved to the other side of the room to find out what happened, to make sure. I'm like going, are you sure you don't want me to finish this out and everything? I'm over here to make sure that you can at least get off stage. Well, I'm sitting right next to her fiance, unbeknownst to me, and he's there to make sure she can get off stage too. But what happened is that she broke her toe the previous night on an author. Yeah, she broke her toe on an author. Butcher. She broke her toe on an author. Who knew? So that's just weird. And then, so that was also on day 3 for me. That was her final panel, thank God. So she got to go home and take care of her toe. And she just got engaged, like, just the day before or whatever. So it went, yay, I'm engaged! Ow, I broke my toe! And then I stuck around and helped Gini break down her stuff. That was an interesting night as well. That's an experience that I think Joseph would be much more conducive in being part of. So we will save the breakdown story definitely, because that was the end of it. We took advantage of the fact that my badge allows me access anywhere. I had clear access until 11 o'clock, so I could leave the exhibition hall because we needed something from her room. I could leave, go get it, come back, and no one was going to stop me. I wasn't abusing my privileges to go hang out with stars or anything like that, which is always the concern when you give someone a full access badge. But no, it was a matter of I could help one of our guests this way because, yeah, otherwise she wasn't 100% certain what would happen. She wanted to stay with her stuff. Well, she didn't know if anyone that she had helping her, anyone else would be able to get in and out without being stopped or hassled. I would not be hassled. So, ta-da, there I went. So, that is part 1 of Phoenix ComiCon talk. We will finish up Phoenix ComiCon talk when Joseph joins us, which will be the next one, because I am going to be getting him today, and then we will be getting him going. Later this week, we will be launching, and I think we're going to post the first episodes on Friday of Math Monkeys and 4-Color Storytime. So, like I said, those are going to be audio podcasts, so there's not going to be any videos for that. I may do a video announcement, and for the very first one I may post a video, but realize that that's all that is. That is just a video that's going to help announce and get you over to the audio podcast, okay? The audio podcast may be only available on the server for the first episode or two, because I then have to get it all set up with iTunes and whoever else I'm going to get it set up with. But it's definitely going to be coming. Look out for that. And if you're only getting me through iTunes or other servers, don't worry. You won't miss the first episode, because when I do get it up on there, I will make sure that the first episodes are posted as well, as I always have. Even with More Geek Than Gay, you guys got the really rough first episodes of this show. So you'll get the first episodes for that too. Don't worry. And with that, I want to say thank you all for sticking around, making us grow so nicely. Last episode, really nice turnout. Make sure you tell your friends if you've been enjoying this. And again, I'm still waiting for your role-playing stories. If you're in the Phoenix area and you want to play like some sort of like tabletop role-playing game, hit me up. We will get together and figure out something. If you are around the world and playing, let me know your stories. I want to live vicariously through you. So that is the whole thing for right now. I want to again say thank you, thank you, thank you. And I look forward to us chatting again on Thursday. Bye!
Hey, Dad, if you need a break from driving, come on by the Exit 5 rest stop. If the road is looking mighty long, take a break and you cannot go wrong. If it's mighty long, then you can't go wrong at the Exit 5 rest stop. If you're looking for some gas to pump or a place to rest your weary rump, if you need a pump and just bring your rump in the Exit 5 rest stop. Can't you smell those weenies roasting? Can't you taste those wholesome buns? Just a bite and you'll be boasting how every night we make you come. So blow that horn and don't be nervous. You're sure to love our friendly service. So don't be nervous, you'll love our service. If it's mighty long, then you can't go wrong. If you need a pumpkin, just break your rump in and rest a little while at the Exit 5 rest stop. That's the Exit 5 rest stop, located near beautiful Pink Lagoon. We'll make you smile. So won't you come on now?
Howdy hey! Okay, so first off, you may notice that I'm dressed a little differently and I look a little different right now. That's because I just got back from work. Believe it or not, in spite of whatever you've noticed before, I do try to test out these episodes before they go out. And the last section after the song just wasn't working. There was something wrong with the sound. I think it had to do with how I was handling the recording device. So, my bad. I do apologize for the awkward cut that happens in the middle. Clearly I was talking about Stan Lee and then suddenly I'm talking about something else entirely when I come back and go, oh, well, I guess it turned off. It appears to have turned off much earlier than I thought it did. I was actually talking about another panel I had where they actually had me participating, comparing the Ricardo Montalban con to the Cumberbatch con, which I referred to as Montalcon and Contalbatch. I want those terms to catch on, so feel free to use them as much as you wish. So that one's just a matter of me learning the timing, and everything was going good. I just missed the cut. So letting that one slide. But this one, I had to re-record. It was just something that really required re-recording. So that's how come I look a little different right now. Yeah. And not as flattering of lighting if you're watching it. Hopefully you're listening, and then you don't get to see the horribly not flattering lighting. And by the way, this is still not my natural hair color. I did this intentionally. I've been kind of aiming for this gray color. I just kind of wanted this silvery gray. I wanted it. I still need to touch up a little bit because there's still a little bit of the blonde that I had to lighten up to showing through. But my natural hair color is still pretty much pitch black with silver in it, with gray hair in it. Not quite salt and pepper, but it's black with gray. So this is, though, me having fun. And everybody's like, well, why would you want gray hair to have fun? I don't know. I just did. Maybe it makes me look distinguished. Yeah, distinguished. Okay, I'll go with that. Anyway, what you just listened to was the Exit 5 Rest Stop radio jingle from Creatures from the Pink Lagoon. Yep. I don't know what's going on back there. Cats are doing weird things. That's what cats do. But that's kind of a cute little set. That starts at the very beginning of the movie, but it still kind of sets the tone of what you're going to see. So if you like that, you'll like the movie. If you don't like that, well, why don't you like it? It's a cute little thing. Get over yourself. Anyway, I do want to take a quick moment to thank Compete Sports Magazine. They are an LGBT sports magazine, and I will have a link to them down below. Also, please do keep in mind that Joshua Tree Feeding Program exists. They are a feeding program that helps provide food for people with HIV and AIDS. They have a sister program that helps people with feeding their pets, so they don't have to choose between feeding themselves and feeding their pets. Their website is www.jtfp.org, and there will be links there. They're an all-volunteer organization, so anything you offer will be greatly appreciated. Yeah. So there's that. Without any further ado, let's hit the comic book storybook time. Yay, comic book storybook. Story time. Comic book story time. Apparently my mouth doesn't work any better once I've been awake all day and just got home from work. So, for this week's comic book story time, we have from DC Comics 4-Star Spectacular issue number 1, cover price 50 cents, from 1976. We have Wonder Woman in the the case, the riddle. It is the riddle of the talking lion. Some of this information I'm retrieving from online because even in their letters page, they're not sure who wrote or drew it. But according to a website I found, it appears to be from Sensation Comics number 17. That they do know. And it is attributing the script to William Moulton Marston and the arts to Harry G. Peter, which actually this issue says is clearly not Harry G. Peter, so don't know. But I actually really like the artwork. I think it's very nice artwork. I think Wonder Woman actually had some nice artwork going on at that time. It's very reminiscent of its time, but I like it. Speaking of its time, this is from 1943. So I think it's the oldest of all the comic book story times I've done so far. And it starts out with this beautiful splash page of Wonder Woman riding on the back of a lion. Why? Comic books. Wonder Woman riding on the back of a lion. And we have over here a talking lion. Absurd. Child's babble. Yet a lion did speak, and Wonder Woman, moving with lightning speed in her invisible plane, traced the big cat's astounding words half across the world against an exotic panorama of beautiful princesses and slave girls, Egyptian pyramids, honeycombed with secret passages and death traps, subtle as only the ancient Egyptian could make them. Wonder Woman flashes like an Amazon sword across 2 continents and an ocean to save kidnapped children whose hiding place is shrouded in darkest mystery. Beautiful as Aphrodite, wise as Athena, stronger than Hercules, and swifter than Mercury, Wonder Woman comes from the secret isle of the Amazons, where mighty women rule supreme, to help America in her direst hour of need against cruelty, injustice, and aggression. That's all on the splash page there, okay? That's just this little right there of the splash page. You do not get this type of reading in comic books nowadays, okay? You get a big splash page with like 2 words, and then maybe they'll have this many words in the whole issue, and that's how it takes 6 issues to tell a story nowadays. 6 issues that Jack Kirby could have told in 3 panels. So, buckle up, kids. This is going to be some tough work here because I got story, yet I got a little bit of time to tell it in. And I got so little time, why am I talking about how little time I got? Let's just do it. So it starts with Diana Prince, Army nurse, visiting Sally Lee, an Army intelligence clerk who is homesick. Now, she's wondering how Sally is doing, and Sally's like going, I'm okay. But poor little Bobby here, he's the one who's having a bad time. And Diana's like, well, why? What's wrong, Bobby? And she's like, well, Bobby missed an important movie that he's been waiting to see weeks for. But it was either a movie or medicine to keep me from dying. So... oh, Wonder Woman's curious what movie it is. And Bobby's like going, oh, it was The Last Day. It's Wonder Woman in America's Guardian Angel. She's all tied up and escapes underwater, and she catches real spies and everything. And apparently Bobby's quite crazy about Wonder Woman. And Diana Prince says, oh, would you have liked to have met Wonder Woman? And he's like going, yeah, would I? You know, she jumped through windows and things like that. She's cool. I would be the envy of all my friends. He might not have said cool. I might have just paraphrased that. But you get the impression. You get the idea. He walks Diana Prince home to her apartment, and she goes and changes into Wonder Woman. And since Bobby has expressed how she jumps in through windows, she climbs out the window of her apartment and jumps in the window of his apartment. And he's quite stoked. Stoked, I tell you. And Wonder Woman's like going, hey, Bobby, let's go to the zoo. Because that's what Bobby wanted to do with Wonder Woman. Yeah, go to the zoo. So they go off to the zoo, and while at the zoo, Wonder Woman runs into Steve Trevor. Now you may remember Steve Trevor. He's that army dude who is in love with Wonder Woman, and Wonder Woman happens to kind of be in love with him, but he's not as interested in Diana Prince, and unfortunately Wonder Woman and Diana Prince are one and the same person. So, it's kind of that Lois Superman Clark Kent thing, except for oddly sexist. So, Steve Trevor is there with his niece, Ginger. Ginger's blonde. She's not a ginger. I don't know why they call her Ginger. But they're all meeting up at the zoo, and Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor decide to sit down and have a little chat and let Bobby and Ginger run around at the zoo, because that's what you do. You let children run around at the zoo. Soon after they're having a little bit of a chat, Bobby and Ginger come running back going, oh my god, the lion over there, it was talking. And Steve Trevor's like laughing, no way, there's no way that the kids, that they heard him talking. And one was looking, let's go check it out. It's a slow day anyway, you know, I'm at the zoo. So they go, and the lion goes, rawr, 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 rawr. So it's like, nothing. And at this point, that's when Wonder Woman, Steve Trevor, and Bobby wander off to go look at some monkeys. Because it's a zoo. It's a zoo. But Ginger, she's sticking around. She's going to watch that lion until it talks again. Meanwhile, a zoo attendant comes up behind Ginger, and he starts waving some meat at the lion. You know, to feed it. It's meat on a stick. But he just waves it, and it gets the lion all agitated and upset, and the lion breaks out because, oh my gosh, the cage isn't locked. Meanwhile, so now the lion's loose, it's all agitated, it's hungry, and apparently the zoo attendant is holding that stick with the meat at the end of it right over Ginger. Don't know why. Steve's ready to come by and shoot the lion, but Wonder Woman's like going, no, don't shoot it. It is a noble beast. She holds it momentarily and just gets it to relax. You know, hey, calm down. And then she picks him up and throws him into the cage because he's a noble beast who should not be shot, but apparently he could be thrown. But she finds it suspicious that it wasn't locked, and Steve finds it, you tried to kill the little girl because it wasn't locked. Reporters mysteriously show up, and one of them's like going, oh, it was nothing, the zoo. And the little girl's like going, no, really, it talked. I saw it talk. So, of course, being that only a little girl and a little boy saw it talk, and no one else has anything to confirm about a talking lion, the newspapers run with a talking lion story because it gets kidnapped, and they go, the talking lion has been kidnapped. Oh my gosh. Or, not oh my gosh, but as Steve Trevor puts it, by the nibbling Niagara. Yeah, by the nibbling Niagara. Steve has a way with words. So, the talking lion disappears, the zoo attendant disappears, and so he decides to get together with Wonder Woman, and they decide to go see what's going on with the kids. But when they go over and see Sally, they find out that Bobby has disappeared, and then, of course, Ginger has most likely disappeared too, because they're now great friends that'll never see each other again after this issue. So that is when Wonder Woman starts thinking about it, and she comes to the conclusion that actually there's an Axis spy in Cairo who is expecting information, and in Egypt they may be one of the only people that have the skill and technology or whatever to teach a lion to talk. Yeah, because those Egyptians, they may be spies, but they're crafty. So, that's when they go off in her invisible airplane with the invisible propeller, because this is before invisible jets. They go off to Cairo, and she seeks an audience with Princess Yasmini, who's the spy. Princess Yasmini is the spy. And a slave girl comes and greets her and goes, I don't think you'll be able to get an audience with Princess Yasmini. And that's when Wonder Woman whips the scarf off of her, and she's not going, oh really, Princess Yasmini? Because it was Princess Yasmini, it wasn't really a slave girl. And so, Wonder Woman's going, oh, I was able to see through your disguise. By the way, you're very lovely, Princess Yasmini. And the princess is like, you too are beautiful. This is 1943. This isn't going to go where we would think it was going to go. They're just complimenting each other. Now, Steve Trevor is being talking to her and everything, and he's all going, oh my god, you really are really beautiful. And Princess Yasmini is, oh, as if I could only believe you, Major. And Wonder Woman's in the background, if I could only believe he doesn't. Because she's jealous, but she's a pro, and she's keeping her eye on the job, not letting her personal feelings of jealousy interfere. But that is when she decides to lay the big bomb about how, you're a spy and you're waiting for a talking lion. And Princess Yasmini's like, this was a setup just to try to trap me? Well, I am out of here. And she is. Wonder Woman and the Major, try running after her, but no hope. No success there. So they come up with a plan. They do catch up with her and see that Princess Yasmini is talking to the lion and the lion is talking back to her, so they catch that, but they realize they can't catch her at that moment. So Wonder Woman comes up with the idea that she's going to go get another lion while Steve keeps an eye on the princess. And Steve's like going, okay, I can do that. So, then Steve ends up being attacked, unfortunately, by some of her guards and taken into her thing where she plays hostess. And she burns incense and has the slave girls dancing for him. But the dancing and the incense is too much for him. Too much. and he passes out under the spell of Princess Yasmini. Meanwhile, Wonder Woman, completely unaware of all this, she has gone over looking for like a big lion, and she finds one, and she bargains with a local Bedouin, and she gets herself a lion and walks off with it, and the Bedouins are all like going, "Oh my God!" Actually, to quote them, they're saying, "By Allah, the woman is a witch. Allah preserve us!" Because how strange that the woman is just walking around with a lion. So then she figures out that something is wrong, and she runs off with the lion, actually riding the lion, much like that splash page. So not just comic books, it's in the story. She is riding a lion. And she rides off, and then she, let's see, opening the cage of Princess Yasmini's talking lion, Wonder Woman permits him to escape, putting her own lion in its place. Ah, a trick. But then she's captured by the guards, and one holds a knife to her, and she's like going, "Oh, how terrifying. Do you suppose that's going to hurt me?" And it doesn't. They just tie her up and take her over to Yasmini. So then Princess Yasmini, she comes up with she's like, "Hey, you're the spy. You did all the spying. I was just talking to a lion." So then let's see here. I forgot where I'm at here. So they go off, and she starts talking to Princess Yasmini, and we get little details about her abode. And let's see, for some reason the lion is talking. Oh, that's because Wonder Woman has put a little broadcast thing on its neck. So she is actually talking for the lion, giving fake information to the Germans. Yeah. I don't know how that's getting away because... Let's see, wait. Oh no, that's not what's happening. I don't know what the microphone's doing in this next panel. That lion's just talking. I don't know why it's talking when Wonder Woman traded it out. I don't see an explanation for that. But it's dense in text. I might have missed something. So they carry her off to a trap where she and Steve Trevor are on like a teeter-totter thing. It's like a teeter-totter thing. Steve at one side, Wonder Woman at the other side. If either one of them move, they'll just both slide and plummet to their deaths. Now, Princess Yasmini's like thinking, "Oh, I could just leave you here to starve, or to twitch and then fall to your deaths, but I think it would be much more entertaining to throw rose petals at Steve and weight down his side so you both slide to your death that way, in a poetic-y, flowery way." So Wonder Woman takes this moment to, like, seize her opportunity, and she jumps and propels Steve Trevor into the air, like a teeter-totter, whing, like a lever. Now, how that doesn't just plummet her into the pit, I don't know, because somehow now she's airborne and catching Steve Trevor, so I don't think physics works that way, but comic books. Meanwhile, some of Princess Yasmini's guards end up running into the pit because it's really hard to pay to hire good guards. That's really what it comes down to. Have you seen stormtroopers? Okay. So now Princess Yasmini and Wonder Woman are wrestling, but she is getting ready to poison herself. Princess Yasmini, not Wonder Woman. She's getting ready to poison herself. Wonder Woman puts the golden lasso around her, but it's too late. She is not able to compel her to stop. Princess Yasmini, dead. So now it is time for Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor to go back home again in the invisible airplane. So, and oh, here we go. See, here's the trick. I suspected the lion talk must be a radio. Ah, now we get an explanation of what's going on with the two lions. I found a tiny receiving set at Yasmini's, made my lion swallow it, and got the Cairo station to broadcast my message on that wavelength. Aha! See, so there was the radio thing, and that's what was going on. I thought there was. I thought it. Didn't know it, but I thought it. So they all arrive back, and now Etta Candy's there waiting for them. Etta's kind of Wonder Woman's Jimmy Olsen, okay? Except for more sexist. And they happen to have the zoo attendant, and they're going to keep him and to turn him in as a spy and try to get as much information out of him. And Etta slaps him. And that's when Wonder Woman goes, "You and your girls delivered the goods, Etta. Congratulations. What would I ever do without you?" And Etta's, "Woo, woo. How can anybody do without candy?" So, before a cheering audience, Colonel Darnell, I think that's Steve Trevor's boss, awards $1,000 to Bobby Lee for discovering the Talking Lion's keeper. And he gets like a big little reward there. I don't know what that's to do with the keeper, but... And then he states to Diana Prince, a Medal of Extraordinary Valor has been awarded to Wonder Woman, but she isn't here. And Diana Prince says, Wonder Woman couldn't come, but she asked me to say that the children are acute observers and adults ought to pay more attention to what their youngsters say. Sass, sass. And that's the end of that? Yes. So, thank you. We look forward to your comments. Don't forget to tell me about your role-playing games and all sorts of other goodies. Look for Math Monkeys later this week, most likely Friday. Look for 4-Color Storytime later this week, most likely Friday. And we will catch you guys on Thursday. Thank you. Bye-bye.